The conference finals are set. SGA does it again. LeBron, Giannis, and more. This is Kent, and this is Fanatically Speaking. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome again to Fanatically Speaking. And the NBA playoffs continue to move on. We are on now to the conference finals. The final four teams are set. It is in the East. We got the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers, the 3 and the 4 seed. And then we got the 1 and the 2 in the West. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder, your reigning, defending champions, and the up-and-coming, jumping everybody San Antonio Spurs. I think in the East it looked like for most of the season, what were we going to get? Were we going to get that Pistons, the 1 seed in the East, Detroit Pistons against the Knicks somewhere in the playoffs? The Pistons had seemed to own New York, and they were trying to get some revenge on last year when the Knicks ousted them from the playoffs. But unfortunately for the Pistons, they struggled in the first round. It took them 7 to get rid of the 8 seed Orlando Magic, and then they had to go 7 against Cleveland and got blown out in Game 7 at home by the Cleveland Cavaliers. So for Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell making his first conference finals. James Harden, his first since his days with the Houston Rockets. I believe it's like 2018. It's been a minute. Time flies. The Cavs, it's their first since LeBron back in 2018. It's a good accomplishment for Cleveland. Really, really, really good. They, since LeBron, they've been trying to rebuild that team, and they've done some really good moves, obviously. Having Jared Allen, getting Evan Mobley, trading for Donovan Mitchell, taking that chance on somebody that I think anybody could have made that deal. I always say that with Donovan Mitchell, and the Cleveland Cavaliers did it. Now, do I have a lot of faith in them, even though they're in the conference finals? I can't sit there and say that. That's a whole nother conversation because of, James Harden's on this team. And he is known for a few things, flopping, which he still does, falls down on his three-pointers, trying to get fouls. Everything SGA gets, accused of now with the fouls. James Harden was one of the worst, and I say one of the worst, but one of the worst to watch play basketball, and then one of the best, right? He would just go fling his hands up in the air, and they'd give him a foul or and one. So either way, very talented player, and I saw, watching the game last night, he's like second in the most playoff games ever played without a championship next to Karl Malone. He's actually sandwiched in between Karl Malone and John Stockton. So sorry, Utah Jazz. Not only did you trade Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 2 of your greatest are also on that short list there, top 3 of guys never to win a championship, but played a lot of playoff games. You never know what Harden's going to show up. Mitchell took over in Game 7. Harden had been good, early in the series. I know Stephen A. Smith pointed out James Harden is great 1 through 5, but Game 6 and 7, you never know what you're going to get. But he didn't have to. Donovan Mitchell took over, and Detroit just kind of, I don't know how you go from, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, Detroit, and you have 2 of the 3 are at home, and you lose the home ones, and you win in Cleveland. It's kind of weird, but anyways, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think the team's legit. Could they make the NBA Finals? Sure. I will say, just like Detroit, they have had to go to 2 Game 7. They went with the Raptors and now the Detroit Pistons. Raptors were a surprise. The Pistons, they just didn't have enough firepower. And they were one of those one seeds. And I mentioned that before in earlier episodes that reminded me of like the Joe Johnson Atlanta Hawks. It was like, yeah, they're the one seed, but do I really believe in them? They've got Cade Cunningham. They've got Jalen Duren. And then everybody else, you just didn't know what you were going to get. And they looked really bad last night. Outplayed, out-hustled. Donovan Mitchell was the all-star superstar that he should be. And I know some games he kind of disappeared, but when it mattered the most, he showed up. And then all of Game 7 he showed up. I mentioned that before. But, what James Harden is Cleveland going to get in this conference finals? Are they going to get a new version? Is he going to be, just a compliment off of Donovan Mitchell and the rest of the team? They worked hard to get here, and it makes everything they've done so far, it makes it worth it or the right call. And hiring Kenny Atkinson as the head coach, and even Kenny Atkinson passing after he got hired by the Charlotte Hornets to then to go back on his word and then go to Cleveland. Right now, it's the right decision for him. The trade for James Harden, Atkinson, you got rid of J.B. Bickerstaff to get Kenny Atkinson, so you beat him and Detroit, and it all looks like the right decision. Now only standing in their way, is the New York Knicks, who are, they're the hottest team in the East in the playoffs. In both their series, they had a few battles, with Atlanta and Philly, and ultimately they just pulled away. And by the end of the series, they owned them and they blew them out and they controlled every game and just took over. Jalen Brunson, the star that he is, and the defense that you would expect from that team with a Mike Brown head coach. And again, for the New York Knicks, taking that next step is what they needed to do from last year, losing to the Pacers. And what did they do? They fired their head coach, Tom Thibodeau. They bring in Mike Brown, who other teams have given up on. And again, I think a lot question him being hired by the New York Knicks. But here they are, back in the conference finals. And I would say, obviously, they should be the favorite. They're the higher seed. They are the hotter team, right? They stayed hot. Again, they pulled away from the Sixers. They've avoided, like, the Boston Celtics, who blew it against the Sixers. They avoided the top seed Pistons, which was going to be a battle because that's, like I said, that's that rivalry where the Pistons own them in the regular season. And I think they were looking for, I think all of them were looking for the battle in the playoffs, and this was going to be in the conference finals, of course. They have home court advantage. They've got the media. They've got it all. It's New York. It's been so long. And, do they finally get it done after all of these years? But I think Brunson, I think everybody, the whole crew, they're ready to take that next step. I see this going 7 games. I don't see anything changing for Cleveland. I really do see it like a 7-game series. Guard play is going to be very, very key and important in this series. I think the Knicks have the better defense there. Because James Harden doesn't play really defense. Brunson doesn't really play defense. But if you bring, however you use Hart and Bridges, even on guards, like who guards who, Anunoby, if he gets in there, it's all there for them. They've got Alvarado. And then on the Cleveland side, Mitchell, he can play some D. And then outside of that, I don't know what else Cleveland has defensively. And that's the key. They've got Mobley, they've got Allen down low, and that kind of, with Towns and the bigs there with Randall. With the bigs in New York. Randall's on the Wolves now, and they might want to get rid of him. But anyways, I'm thinking back in the way past. But, so Towns, the Knicks down low. Towns is not your normal big man down low type of, post-up kind of guy. So he's going to be active, stretching that D on Cleveland, and just see what happens there. And then we switch over. Before I switch over, in the East, again, each round I make my picks. Again, I'm still going with the New York Knicks. I know that was my midseason pick. I switched to the Celtics if healthy with Tatum. That has all changed ever since they got knocked out and he got re-injured. It's been New York all the way. They've been the hotter team. I think they're going to have too much momentum, and they are going to, they will defeat the Cleveland Cavaliers. I do think it'll be a 7-game series, though. So I'm still sticking with the Knicks in the East. On to the West. Similar. We get the revenge. We get the rivalry game here because these two have become a rivalry especially this season. The Thunder, Oklahoma City Thunder, are trying to repeat as champion again, and their regular season nemesis, the San Antonio Spurs. At times during the season, San Antonio dominated them. I believe the season series was 3-1 San Antonio. And it seemed like the Thunder were rolling during the year, during this season, and then San Antonio would just punch them in the mouth, punch them in the mouth, punch them in the mouth. And they'd been really the only thing outside of some injuries to slow OKC down. OKC still, bounced right back, best record in the league. Obviously, SGA, we'll get to him. Doing his thing again, another MVP, and trying to get his back-to-back titles as well. Jalen Williams' health will be key in this series. How they officiate Victor Wembanyama will be key as well. Thunder don't have the physical bigs like that. Like Holmgren's not that physical. He's kind of a Wemby. Wemby's just taller, better, everything. But Hartenstein could bring some physicality. We know Lou Dort will do some things, dirty or not, but will be physical. And does he help out on Wemby? That's going to be key. And how do they officiate? And we talk about I talked about Wemby before. He got suspended. Well, not suspended, but he got ejected out of the one game in Minnesota, and that was on the league. The league had allowed teams, to just beat up on them all year and not get calls, which was, for whatever reason, right? And then they were, then they officiate different in the playoffs, and I think he just had enough, and he swung an elbow. He's got to keep his cool. There's bigger things at hand now. He obviously came back from that ejection and dominated the rest of that series against Minnesota. It was huge. The Spurs, they're ahead of schedule. I talked about this. They are, already, doing something, that others have not been able to do in the past few years. They did that already. They kept the Wolves out of the conference finals. It just seemed like the Wolves made the conference finals every year, no matter what. And at one point when that series was tied, maybe, it was like, maybe the Wolves do it again. Maybe San Antonio is just not quite ready, but they are. And that's a key piece of this series is, what does San Antonio have? Do they take that next step? I completely expect this to be a 7-game series. The Thunder, they haven't been touched yet. They've just been rolling along. And I think the Spurs are going to give them a really good matchup. So no sweeps for the Thunder. The Spurs will give them everything they can handle and more. 7 games, and speaking of officiating as well, SGA, how do they officiate Wemby? How do they officiate SGA? Right? Do they let him and allow him to do what he does, try to get those foul calls and control the game? Guard play in this is just as important as the big man. It's Castle and Fox, and the defense of the Thunder, the teamwork of the Spurs. All that's going to matter. Can they just make that next step? Again, they're so far ahead of schedule. The Spurs are. The Thunder are the real deal. Again, Jalen Williams, very important. SGA is going to be important, obviously. And it's, yeah, I just can't wait. Like, these conference finals should be good. I still think whoever comes out of the West will, spoiler alert, whoever comes out of the West will win the finals. But again, I expect 2 7-game series in both of these. And, it's a new era in the NBA. We can just say that, right? With SGA, with the Thunder, now the Spurs climbing, the Knicks, and even though Harden is the old guy in the room, again, it's paying off for Cleveland, and it should be exciting. But the biggest thing I think, coming out of this is, again, SGA extending his legacy, trying to go back-to-back titles. He has the back-to-back MVPs, and that is what I want to touch on next, along with a lot of other player news. All right, so to jump around the league with some player news, SGA, MVP again, back-to-back, the first guard since Steph Curry, I believe. And he is right now the guy. He is the guy. As good as everyone is and everyone thinks they are, SGA, consistent all year, efficient all year. He is the man in the NBA. And if the Thunder were to win again, it would just put him on another level historically in the NBA. I have to bring this up, of course, that the Charlotte Hornets drafted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and this one hurts. It hurts just as much as Kobe that they had him. They could have had him, and it just shows you just never know. And he's turned out to be now, of course, the best player in the league, up there with the Jokic and Wemby now, and Giannis and Luka and whoever else you want to put in there. Ant, he's right there. He's the top guy. I think it's deserved. There's an argument to be made for Jokic. There's an argument to be made for Wemby. They, of course, finished second and third, respectively. Jokic averaged a triple-double, had the Nuggets going, and then just kind of fizzled. Wemby, again, just like the Spurs, so far ahead of schedule. We knew he was an alien. We knew he was special, and we're seeing it, with the points, with everything, the blocks. Surprising in this MVP race that Luka Doncic did not get any first place votes. It's really weird to me. I know he finished injured, but he led the league in scoring. And he was if you watch the Lakers this year, we talk about LeBron, and I'll get to LeBron. But the Lakers were better without LeBron. When it was like Luka and Reeves, and they were running the show, the Lakers were really, really good. And I thought that he was a huge reason of why they finished where they finished, and they could have finished better. I know defense is always brought up with Luka. Not that he should have won. I think at one point you could have made that argument. And then, again, the end of the season, how season ends and how guys finish the season definitely affects the votes. Go look at Rookie of the Year with Cooper Flagg and Con Knueppel. It definitely affected that vote. That Con kind of slowed down, and Flagg had some big games. And, I think Con had a good argument for it. I think probably the best decision would have been co-MVPs, but that's not how they vote. So, co-Rookie of the Years. MVP, definitely SGA. I have no problem. I'm not going to sit here and argue that. I would argue that Luka probably deserves more votes, for sure. Like I said, he carried the Lakers. Someone who can still ball and just can't seem to lead the Lakers anywhere is LeBron James. He puts up all these numbers and historical numbers, and again, if you play forever, which is a great accomplishment, like for him and his determination and his willingness to continue to work hard and stay in shape, and his ethic, his work ethic at at basketball. I mean, that's who LeBron is. He's always been that way, but he's just never been able to lead the Lakers outside of the bubble. That was it. I mean, everybody was in the bubble. I get that, but it's still a special title. Outside of that, LeBron has not done anything with the Lakers. They have just been owned by the Nuggets in the playoffs, or, he just can't lead them. I get it. He's up there, right? He's old. But I think his days in LA, and for the Lakers, I think if they want to move on, I think if they want to get better and try to just change their image and change the culture there, I think you have to move on from LeBron. I also think that, you got to maybe trade Austin Reeves. Like, I get it. Him and Luka work well together. You could get a lot for him. I think you got to build around Luka. I could see also them keeping Reeves. I definitely think LeBron's got to go. It's just like, hey, you're either with Luka or you're not. And if you're going to team him with somebody, team him with someone else. Maybe they make a deal for some guy that I'm going to mention, later. I think LeBron can be a piece on a stacked team, but it's just another failed season in LA. I'm never going to think of him as a Laker. He can put up all the numbers, and he can be in a Laker uniform when he breaks whatever records he breaks, and I will never remember him as a Laker. I remember him as a Heat, Miami Heat than anything, but more than a Laker, like a Cleveland Cavalier for sure, then a Heat. He just didn't stay there long enough, but he went to LA, and I just don't. I just don't think of him as a Laker. I think he could go back to the Cavs. He could go to the Heat. Of course, he would probably love to be at the Cavs now, and maybe now they don't want him. Especially if they go to the finals or win the finals, they're definitely not going to be like, oh yeah, let's bring LeBron in. Like, what do we need him for? Now, story book ending, yeah, go back to Cleveland, end your career in Cleveland, whatever. I think Miami is not a bad spot. I think in the East in general, LeBron, go to the East. You're not going to win the West, ever. But there are teams in the West that could still want LeBron. I think you hear the rumors about the Golden State Warriors. One last shot, one last run, teaming up a Curry and a LeBron. It would at least be fun to watch that. I'm not a LeBron fan, but, USA basketball is at least fun when you see like a Curry and him dominate. I think other teams, you got to think big when you think LeBron. Spurs, depending on how this series turns out, would be, again, an addition, a body, a piece on a team that is ready. Boston Celtics, they really got to rethink life. So I don't know that really works. I just put them on there, on this list. Philadelphia, because, again, Philadelphia has to think of something different to do than what they've been doing. Outside the box would be the Denver Nuggets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Detroit Pistons. Those are top teams that could be a piece away, but I could see some of these teams going after someone else. I think money is going to be an issue. I think LeBron is still worth, big money, big short-term deals, obviously, but still, he's not taking any discounts, I don't believe. Not at this point, or he shouldn't, even though he has in the past with Miami. With all the drama, behind the scenes with him and the Lakers, I really do think it's just time to move on. I think it's, hey, LeBron, where are you going to ride off into the sunset? Lakers, build around Luka. This is your star that you chose. You have to, again, change the image, change the culture for what that is. And like I said, all the behind the scenes stuff with LeBron, and do the Lakers even want him, respect him? They wanted to trade him, and it's a very interesting situation. And I think they could put more focus on their team and winning, and actually and not just winning, but winning a championship. And I don't think LeBron is that for them. again, he could be a piece somewhere else. And speaking of another team that is probably need to move on from their star, and his star is younger, but is the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo. We have talked about this before. I've mentioned, it seemed like Giannis just never wants to really say trade me. He won't say it. The Bucks won't do it. They want to hang on. They keep on, all the talk. They're on the fence. Should they make a deal? Should they not? They say that if the deal does get done, it's going to get done. Basically, we're in that window until the NBA draft. They'd like to get something done. So everybody, I'm sure all teams are putting in their offers, making their best deals, doing all the talking they need to do to get this done. And I think both would be better off. I think definitely Giannis would be better off to make his, best of his final years in the league, trying to win somewhere else. The Bucks are nowhere. They're going nowhere. They're going to need a new head coach. They just don't have the team to compete in the East. They showed that this year. I know Giannis was hurt, and then he, I think, wanted to play. They didn't want him to play, and then there's this back and forth because, again, they want to trade him, but they didn't want to trade him at the beginning of the year. The midway at the trade deadline. So now is the best time for them to just part ways and do what's best for both of them. Teams that I think will be involved is probably every team should be at least making a call. Now, will they listen to you or Giannis wouldn't want to go there? That's another story. But I think Minnesota Timberwolves, Miami Heat, those San Antonio Spurs, I think based on how this finishes, Philadelphia 76ers, Golden State Warriors, the Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers, Dallas Mavericks. I think these are teams that are right there, competitive, bigger markets or storied franchises like the Spurs could all be involved in, trying to get Giannis and favorites to get Giannis. I put together a few other teams that could have the pieces and need for a Giannis for that one last run. And the hometown Charlotte Hornets here definitely, I think, have a couple of young players, and they have plenty of picks to make that deal for Milwaukee to like that. Atlanta Hawks, they're in the same boat. They got the picks. They got, maybe a little bit of a package they could put together. Orlando Magic may be looking to change up some stuff there after the collapse this year. I think any team on the rise, any team that were in the playoffs should be putting in an offer for Giannis to make that next step. It's, what's next? And, or can he put us in championship contention or make that jump like a San Antonio? And those are the teams like a Charlotte, Atlanta, Orlando, especially in the East. Now, in the West, I mentioned the Wolves. I think they are a piece away, and Giannis could be that. And then other teams, it's just, again, Warriors are hanging on. Lakers are trying to do something, a big splash. Philly's got to make a deal, I think, as well. Embiid. I put Embiid in Philly, Kevin Durant in Houston. He was already, the day they got eliminated, they're already talking about where could he get traded. And that's just normal for Kevin Durant. But Embiid, I think it's just time. It's like 6 or 7 years straight. He's been injured during the playoffs or missed time in the playoffs. And for the Philadelphia 76ers, they have got to make a decision on this, and they've got to just move on. I don't think KD or Embiid either are a missing piece of any championship team. Mainly Embiid because of his availability, KD because, this year he wasn't available, or he just doesn't lead teams to win. Again, he could be like a LeBron and be a piece on a stacked team, maybe. If he ain't asked to do much, just like in Golden State, just go out and ball, and the others will lead and do the rest, then maybe so. But yeah, with Embiid, he's always injured. Can't get him over the hump in the playoffs. It's just disappointment after disappointment. They beat a Celtics team who was down one of their stars, and then they got smashed by the Knicks. So I can't get, you can't be too excited. I think Embiid's options are going to be limited. Unlike, I think LeBron will have more options than Joel Embiid due to these things, due to these injury concerns. And it's going to take it, or, it's either he's going to go to a team like a Sacramento or I don't know what other team could take a chance on him, but that's a team that comes to mind, like a Sacramento. Just a team that's not there, but will let him be, do whatever he needs to do, play, and at least put butts in seats and give a reason to watch that team play. And then there's some teams that might take the chance, swing big, and say, hey, maybe he is the missing piece. Maybe he can get the whatever team to another level, right? I mean, the Miami Heat need to get out of the play-in level. Other teams, he's just not that championship piece, but he's a really good player when healthy. So I don't know what team that might be. But again, I think those are guys who are going to be on the move. That's kind of the stories going on right now as we are still in the playoffs. The Final Four, the conference finals are set. And we're just waiting on, these moves, these trades, and the NBA draft, and then we'll be in free agency. So that's all what's on tap. I will do another, little update episode once the conference finals are finished and do a breakdown of the NBA finals. I am hoping, as a Spurs fan, that it is the San Antonio Spurs. But we shall see how that goes. Again, expecting 7-game series. But that's the episode today. Listen to the show on all podcast outlets, even YouTube, just no video. Follow on social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Keep up when episodes are available, the topics, and stay connected to the show. Listen, share, like, follow, comment, download, all that fun stuff. But especially listen and share. Remember, whatever device you listen to, just go and tap that app. And for all those teams that have knocked out of the NBA playoffs, and for this episode, I am out.